Borussia Dortmund, an iconic club in German football and is really well known around the world of football. They are no strangers when it comes to winning trophies, as they have won the Bundesliga 8 times and 1 Champions League title in their trophy cabinet, along with 5 DFB Pokals. However, they are not a team that are known for winning trophies every season, nor are they a club known for signing world-class players. They are always seen as underdogs in major competitions and sometimes even seen as a team in the Champions League that is there to make up numbers. They tend to be known as a team that buys young talent for cheap, develops them into world-class players, and sells for ridiculous profit. However, this season they have gone beyond all expectations and have made it all the way to the Champions League final, despite losing all their star players and having a weaker squad compared to the big boys. How did Borussia Dortmund make it to the Champions League final? Now, before we get started, I know I'm kind of releasing this video a bit too early before the final itself, and many of you probably will say, like, how about you wait until Dortmund win the final or see what happens in the final. However, the run Dortmund have been on to get to the final, the journey that they've gone through, is something that I really think that the world should see. So without further ado, let's get into how Dortmund made it to the Champions League final. Before the 23-24 season, in the final match day of the previous season, Dortmund had performed one of the biggest bottle jobs that the whole football world had possibly ever seen. Going into the final match day of the Bundesliga, they were 2 points clear of Bayern Munich. All they had to do was win their final game against Mainz, and they would win the title. Everyone thought the title was all Dortmund's, especially considering the final game of the season was at the Signal Iduna Park. However, at halftime, they found themselves 2-0 down to Mainz. They managed to claw it back to 2-2, but that was it. They bottled the league, and Bayern Munich won it. I don't even think Tottenham Hotspur could pull off a bottle job like that. Actually, with that club, you never know, anything's possible. Going into the summer, big changes happened at the German club. First of all, star player Jude Bellingham was sold to Real Madrid for a monstrous 100 million euros. However, in the incomings, Dortmund spent 66 million euros to bring in new talent to the club. 30 million was spent on young German midfielder Felix Mecha to come in and potentially replace Jude Bellingham, and 19 million spent on Marcel Sabitzer, and 17 million also spent on German striker Niklas Füllkrug, who was the top scorer in the Bundesliga in the previous season. The club actually ended up profiting from the transfer window, as they made 113 million euros from player sales, 95% of that being Jude Bellingham, and spent 66 million on new arrivals, so they profited 47 million euros. And this is really what Dortmund do in the transfer windows. They focus on profits, and they focus on developing young players and selling for a ridiculous amount of money. Pretty decent business plan right there. Going into the season, the Dortmund fans didn't expect much from the team, as they just wanted their team to compete and try to qualify for the Champions League by finishing in the top 4 of the Bundesliga. Many of the fans of Dortmund did not believe that the team could challenge for the league again, especially considering Bayern Munich signed Harry Kane. Dortmund did exactly that, as their league form was very inconsistent. However, they remained in touching distance with the top 4. However, in the Champions League, things would get spicy. The draw was made and Dortmund were drawn in the group of death. The champions of France PSG, legendary club AC Milan, who were the champions of Italy 2 seasons ago, and Newcastle, a club on the rise ever since their oil money takeover. Many people actually predicted Dortmund to finish bottom of the group, as people just simply thought that Dortmund could not compete with the other teams in the group on paper. And they did not get off to a good start, as in the first game of the group, Dortmund traveled to Paris to face PSG and lost 2-0. And they really did not even look like scoring, as they only managed to get 1 shot on target for the entire 90 minutes. Their next game in the group stage ended as a 0-0 draw against AC Milan. Dortmund were the better team in this game, but just simply could not take their chances. The third game, however, was when they would start to turn up the heat. They traveled to St. James's Park to play Newcastle. They ended up winning the game 1-0 after a goal from Felix Mecha after a great passage of play. On match day 4, they played Newcastle once again, this time in Dortmund, where they beat Newcastle 2-0. Match day 5, they traveled to San Siro to play AC Milan, where they beat them 3-1, and a really convincing performance as well on top of that, and then drew 1-1 with PSG on the final match day. After the games are done, incredibly, Dortmund had managed to top the group of death with 11 points, 3 points clear of PSG in second. They already kind of defied the odds, as no one really gave them a chance to make it out of the group, but hey, Champions League heritage comes clutch, I guess. Going into the January transfer window, Dortmund had a pretty successful window. Although Dortmund only ended up making 2 transfers, both of them being loan signings on top of that, they would eventually go on to have a big impact for the club. Firstly, young talented Dutch left-back Ian Maatsen was bought in on a 6-month loan, and second, Jadon Sancho was bought back to the Signal Iduna Park, also on a 6-month loan. Maatsen was a talented left-back who was struggling to get game time for Chelsea. Meanwhile Sancho, oh boy. After refusing to apologize to Manchester United boss Erik ten Hag, he was frozen out of the team, training with the under-21 team, and was not even allowed to eat with the first team and had to eat on his own. Maatsen came in and made a rapid impact as he quickly established himself as one of the best young left-backs in Europe. Meanwhile Sancho had a great start too. Although he was not getting a high number of goals and assists, he was a crucial player in creating chances for the Dortmund attack. The round of 16 came for the Champions League and Dortmund were paired up with PSV Eindhoven. Now, most neutrals would probably think this would be an easy game for Dortmund. However, I wouldn't say that. PSV were having a brilliant season themselves as they were absolutely demolishing the competition in the Netherlands and were top of the league by a huge margin. This would prove to be a bit of a challenge. The first leg would be in Eindhoven and the game ended 1-1, with a goal from Daniel Malen against his former club and a penalty from Luc de Jong. The second leg was where Dortmund really finished the job. A goal from Jadon Sancho gave Dortmund the lead in the 3rd minute of the game, and Marco Reus put the tie to bed after scoring in the 95th minute. Dortmund were through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. The quarterfinals came around and the teams left in the competition were all filled with quality. Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Manchester City, Arsenal, PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid. Dortmund were easily one of the weakest teams on paper compared to the other 7. And going into the draw, obviously, Dortmund was a team that everyone wanted to play. The draw was made and Atletico Madrid would be the team that Dortmund would play next. The first leg was in Madrid and Atletico found themselves 1-0 up in the 4th minute after a goal from Rodrigo de Paul, and then found themselves 2-0 up after 32 minutes after a goal from Samuel Lino. At this point, it looked like Atletico were going to breeze past Dortmund. However, Dortmund were quite resilient and generated a lot of chances but just could not score. Sebastian Haller made it 2-1 and the game ended 2-1. People thought Atletico would defend to see out the tie in Germany. However, the second leg was an absolute roller coaster. The second leg started and Dortmund were bringing pressure to Atletico. With the confidence of the yellow wall behind them, Dortmund found themselves 2-0 up within 45 minutes of the game, with goals from Julian Brandt and Ian Maatsen. Dortmund had turned the tie around in 40 minutes to make it 3-2 on aggregate in their favour. Atletico then scored 2 goals from an own goal from Mats Hummels and a goal from Angel Correa to take the lead on aggregate. Then, Dortmund hit back once again, with 2 goals from Niklas Füllkrug and Marcel Sabitzer within 3 minutes to turn the tie back in their favour. The game ended and Dortmund had won the rollercoaster tie, winning the second leg 4-2 and the tie 5-4 on aggregate, and they were on their way to the semi-finals. The semi-finals for them would just simply not get easier as their next opposition would be PSG. PSG are known for having quality players. However, they always seem to fall short in the Champions League. Going into this game, obviously many of the PSG fans and neutrals themselves as well all had PSG as the favourites and they thought they wouldn't bottle it this time. Well, the opposite happened. The first leg in Dortmund and the yellow wall was in full voice. A chance to make it back to the Champions League final for the first time in 11 years. The game was electric and Dortmund kept their shape and defended really well against PSG, with every single Dortmund player having an incredible performance, especially Jadon Sancho having the game of his life, creating chances for Dortmund, leading Dortmund from defense to attack, and even had the most dribbles in a Champions League semi-final since Messi. It is a shame what United did to my boy. I think Ten Hag should be the one apologizing instead. Mats Hummels as well having a brilliant game, keeping Mbappe quiet, showing why he's one of the best defenders in the business despite his age. And then, a long ball from Nico Schlotterbeck was played into Niklas Füllkrug, with the striker having a beautiful first touch and putting it past Donnarumma to make it 1-0 to Dortmund. Dortmund held on and won the first leg 1-0. A big win for Dortmund, however it was only half-time in the tie as the second leg would be in Paris. The second leg began and PSG were much more dangerous compared to the first leg. Chance after chance after chance, yet the Dortmund defense would not budge as they kept their mid-block and defended like absolute warriors. Mats Hummels once again having a standout performance, being the star in the Dortmund defense. Then, the golden chance came. Dortmund won a corner, which was met by Mats Hummels, who scored to give Dortmund a 1-0 lead on Paris and a 2-0 lead on aggregate. Job surely done, right? Not yet. After that, the pressure from PSG was non-stop, as they kept firing more shots at the Dortmund goal and would not let Dortmund even have a chance to breathe. PSG hit the post numerous times and it just seemed like the ball would not go in for them. Dortmund held on till the end and won the tie 2-0 on aggregate. Incredibly, Dortmund were on their way to the finals. Crazy how at the start of the quarterfinals, Dortmund was the weakest team on paper and the team that everyone wanted to play. Now, they were in a Champions League final. This is truly what makes our sport so beautiful. Dortmund will now play Real Madrid in the final on June the 1st at Wembley, with once again everyone counting out Dortmund before the ball has even been kicked, and saying Real Madrid will win number 15. However, if we learn one thing from this video, it is to never really count Dortmund out until the final whistle. Their pure willingness to work hard and their never say die mindset is the reason they have made it all the way to the stage. Real Madrid have so many Champions Leagues already, and they will probably win it again in the next couple years, especially with Mbappe coming through the door. However, Dortmund winning a Champions League is probably a once in a lifetime moment, and I think as football fans, we would all love to see Dortmund win a Champions League once again. I already know for sure which team I'll be supporting in the final. So that is a wrap for this video. What do you guys think about Borussia Dortmund and their run to make it all the way to the final? And do you guys think Dortmund will win the final on June the 1st? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have any other video ideas for me just like this one or anything related to football, let me know in the comments. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe, help the channel grow. But that's all for now. Thank you and take care.